At 5:27 in the morning, a security camera captured something that looked completely ordinary. A man calmly backed his truck into the driveway of his quiet suburban home in Colorado. He stepped out, opened the garage, and began loading items into the vehicle. No rush. No panic. No sign that anything was wrong. To anyone watching, it looked like a man heading to work early. But that ordinary footage would later become the key to uncovering one of the most disturbing family crimes in modern American history. Because just a few hours later, his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters were reported missing. The man on that camera was Chris Watts. To everyone who knew him, Chris was the definition of harmless, soft-spoken, polite, a devoted father who rarely raised his voice. He worked hard, kept to himself, and never gave anyone a reason to doubt him. His wife, Shanann, was the opposite, outgoing, energetic, and deeply devoted to her children, Bella and Celeste. Their social media painted a picture of a happy marriage. Smiling photos, family videos, posts about love, parenting, and building a future together. But what people didn't see was what was happening behind closed doors. The marriage was crumbling. Financial stress was mounting. Chris had emotionally checked out. And most importantly, he was living a double life. He was having an affair and dreaming about starting over, without the responsibilities, without the debt, and without the family that tied him to the life he no longer wanted. In the early hours of August 13, 2018, Shanann returned home from a business trip around 2 a.m. That was the last time anyone outside the house ever saw her alive. By morning, red flags began to appear. Shanann missed a doctor's appointment. She stopped answering calls. Her phone went silent. Her close friend, immediately sensing something was wrong, went to the house and then called the police. That decision would change everything. When officers arrived, Chris answered the door calmly. Too calmly. He invited them in, walked them through the house, and acted confused. He claimed Shanann had taken the kids to a friend's house after an argument. But her purse was still inside. Her car was still in the driveway. The children's medications were untouched. And the house felt wrong. Police asked to review the neighbor's security footage. Chris stood nearby as the video played. There he was, backing his truck into the driveway early that morning, moving back and forth, loading items, glancing around nervously. Investigators didn't accuse him outright, but the tension was unmistakable. A man doesn't behave like that unless he's hiding something. As the pressure increased, cracks began to form. Chris appeared on local television pleading for his family's return, but his words felt rehearsed. His body language didn't match his emotions. Investigators noticed it. The public noticed it. And soon, Chris made a decision that sealed his fate. He agreed to take a polygraph test. Before the test even finished, the examiner stopped him. The results were clear. Chris was lying. Confronted with this, he finally confessed, but not to the full truth. He claimed Shanann had harmed the children, and that he killed her in a moment of rage. It was a story designed to make himself look like a broken man pushed too far. But investigators already knew it wasn't true. After hours of questioning, Chris led police to a remote oil site owned by his company. What they discovered there stunned even veteran detectives. Shannon's body was buried in a shallow grave near the tanks. And Bella and Celeste, his own daughters, were found inside oil storage tanks. The details were so horrifying that much of the evidence would later be sealed from the public. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was planned, calculated, executed with chilling calm. Eventually, the real motive emerged. Chris wanted a new life. A clean slate. No wife. No children. No obligations. He didn't want a divorce. He didn't want shared custody. In his mind, his family wasn't something to leave behind, it was something to erase. Chris Watts was sentenced to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole. He will never walk free again. But this case continues to haunt people for one simple reason. Chris didn't look like a monster. He looked like a normal man. A coworker. A neighbor. A husband. A father. And it reminds us of an unsettling truth. Sometimes the most terrifying evil doesn't come from strangers in dark alleys. Sometimes it sleeps in the same house, smiles for family photos, and waits for the moment no one is watching. If one friend hadn't trusted her instincts, if one security camera hadn't been checked, this story might have ended very differently. Because sometimes the line between justice and a perfect crime is just one person who refuses to ignore that something feels wrong.